Ready, like in the
Radhe Radhe Pranay, so we'll make you host.
I used to have a friend, he used to always win the 100 meters race in college.
Radhe Radhe Pranay have made you host.
He would say,
Radhe Radhe
Radhe
Prithvi.
Radhe. So you'll be all good? You can make Vijay ji co-host, right?
Sure. We'll do that.
Radhe Radhe everyone. Welcome to our daily wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. We will be starting soon. Radhe Radhe Nitin ji.
Radhe Radhe Amritavani ji. Radhe Radhe everyone. Welcome to today's daily edition of Bhagavad Gita. Dr. Vijay, thank you for the beautiful session. Yada mam nagre Swamiji agami. I don't know what he was saying. Tada mam darshanam karomi. Nice session. Welcome everybody. Good morning, good evening to each one of you. I think it's 9 o'clock, so we shall get started. Yeah, let's give about a second. Just about a second, we'll give. So yeah, welcome everybody once again. Hope you all are doing great. I'm excited to be back after a break, and I hope the feeling is mutual. So let's get started with our opening prayers. We have a lot of interesting stuff to cover today. Let me share my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Nitin ji.
Awesome. All right. So we shall get started. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe, a very warm welcome again to all of you. It was a little bit of a break. I had a great time here. Swamiji was here, so we had a week-long program on mind management. I'll keep on presenting a few nuggets from that program related to Bhagavad Gita as we go along. But personally, I learned a lot in that session. One key learning I can share with you is, she said that in the one of the lectures. That's how it started off with, that our mind, it uses the brain. So mind and brain are, by the way, different. It's a subtle machinery, mind. So it is infinitely programmable. It has infinite capacity to get programmed. That much programming we can do. Really depends on the kind of thought process we inculcate and kind of self-talk we do. But it is, if you look at it, it has infinite potential. Right? There's a saying in English, it says, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, in both the ways, in both cases, you are right. So it's really the mind. And that's essentially what our scriptures reiterate as well, from different lenses as well. Anyways, let's get to our Bhagavad Gita verse today. We are going to do chapter 3, verse 7 today. And since we had a little bit of a break, and even otherwise, we will look at, the whole map of why we are here today, okay? Why we are doing this verse, in case you have lost track of what led Lord Krishna to be stating this, starting from chapter 1. So we'll do a quick recap and then we'll get into this verse. So without much ado, I will get started with this verse, and then you're welcome to follow like we always do. So I'll recite it and we'll get started. Yastvindriyani manasa niyamyarabhaterjuna karmendriye karma yogam asakta savishishyate. Okay, do we have any volunteers who want to recite?
Yes, we do have few of them. Preeti ji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Priti.
Yes, please.
Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
Yastvindriyani manasa niyamyarabhaterjuna karmaindriyaih karmayogam asaktasya vishishyate. Radhe
Thank
Radhe.
you, Priti ji. Very nice. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Preeti ji.
Let's take a few more participants.
Shyam ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe
Radhe.
Yastvindriyani mansa niyamayarbhate arjuna karmendriye karmayogam asakta visheshyate. Radhe Radhe.
Ramji, Radhe Radhe. Let's take a few more.
Sumesh ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Ji.
Yastitva indriyani manasa niyamyarabhate arjuna karmendriyaihi karmayogam asakta sak visishyate.
Very nice, Sumesh ji. Radhe Radhe. Like you've been practicing. All right, we can take maybe a couple more.
Okay, Meenakshi ji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Meenakshi ji.
Yeah. Radhe Radhe Nitin ji. Yastvindriyani manasa niyamyarabhaterjuna karmendriyai karma yogam asaktasya vishishyate.
Very nice, Meenakshi ji. Do we have anybody else?
Yes, we do have 4 more hands up.
Oh, 4 more. Okay, let's do quickly, maybe a couple, and then we'll get started.
Uday ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Uday ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Yes, Twindriyani manasa niyam arabate arjuna karmendriyai karma yogam ashaktaha savishishyate. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you very much. Let's quickly take a couple more and we'll get started then.
Shali ji, Radhe Radhe. You can unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, we'll take Shali ji and maybe one more and then we'll get started.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji.
Radhe Radhe, Shali ji.
Yastvindriyani manasa niyamyarabhaterjuna karmendriyai karma yogam asaktasya vishishyate. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, very nice. We'll take one more and we have a fair amount of content to cover, so we'll get started. Others, you can get a chance tomorrow. Next, yes, please go ahead.
Ashwini ji, Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, actually this is Pramod. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Pramod ji.
Yasvindriyani manasa niyamyarabhate arjuna karmendriyai karmayogam asaktahasya vishishyate.
Very nice, Ashwini ji. I can see one more hand, Sam ji. So we can take you quickly and we'll get started then. I'll try to make
Sam ji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Yastvindriyani mansa niyamyarabhate arjuna karmendriya karma yogam asakta sa vashishyate.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe, very nice. So the short translation, before that, let me split it out. Ya means who, through, but, Indriyani, the senses, Manasa, by the mind, Niyamya, control, Arabhate, begins, Arjuna, Arjun, Karam Indriya, by the working senses, Karma Yogam, Karma Yoga, Asakta, without attachment, Saite, Vishishyate, are superior. Short translation, but those Karm Yogis who control their knowledge senses with the mind, O Arjun, and engage the working senses in working without attachment are certainly superior. All right, so let's get started then. Now, have you ever woken up in the morning and wondered, where am I? Or why am I? Where am I? Okay. So if that is the case, it happens with me a lot of times. The good news is that we will do a quick recap to figure out why we are where we are. Okay. We can lose track of it. It happened with me all the times in Bhagavad Gita. By the way, I'm going to this concept, what led me to this concept. Okay. So if that is the case, let's quickly do a quick recap and then get into it. Okay. So this is the road we have traveled so far. Okay. We started off with the Arjun's lamentation that happened in chapter 1, where he was showing us sattvic vikar, not bhav. Okay. His bow was slipping out of his hand. He was saying in 129, he was saying Gandivam Sramsate, right? So the bow was slipping out of his mighty Arjun. That is how it started. His lamentation, his bewilderment, his confusion, anxiety. This is what how we started off with chapter 1. Then comes a turning moment in chapter 2, where he accepts Krishna as his guru. So in verse 2.7, he says, Shishyasteham Shadi Mam Twam Prapannam. So he says, except I am your disciple. So when he says I am your disciple, he's very smart. He's indirectly telling Krishna, you are my guru. So that is the turning moment in Bhagavad Gita. And until then, Lord Krishna has not given him any unsolicited advice. Okay. So when he accepts him as his guru, that's when Lord Krishna starts. And how does he start? He first introduced the concept that who are you? Okay. The fact that you are lamenting here that, hey, these are my relatives, elders, so and so. First of all, understand who are you? You are not this body. You are a soul. That concept of soul is introduced. And it is in 1.47 when what do you call in chapter 2, basically the concept of soul is introduced, where Lord Krishna tells even the attributes of soul, nayanam chindanti shastrani nayanam dahati pavaka. And then further on he goes on to tell him, now that you are a soul, but the matter of fact, because you still consider yourself as a body. So first he gives him the science, understand your true identity. Then he tells him, obviously, we all know we are a soul. If somebody asks us, who all think we are a soul? Everybody would raise their hand, right? But that would mean we are already self-realized. But Krishna understands that is not the case. We know, but the deeper understanding that we are a soul is yet not there. So then he's telling him the second best thing. He's telling him, perform your duty as a warrior. And what was his duty? Because he was a Kshatriya, he has to fight for righteousness. And then he gives him that, and he tells, you have laddu in both your hands. If you fight and die as a warrior, you will get celestial abode. And if you win, you are going to get the kingdom. So in either case, you have a win-win situation. Having said that, now getting the world is also not an aim, right? That is also temporary. So then Lord Krishna introduced the concept of science of work. 2.47, he introduces the concept of Karm Yoga, Karmanyavadhikaraste, where he says, perform your duty without getting attached to results. So he's beckoning him to action here. And at the same time, he gives him the knowledge that there is no true happiness here, all the way up to celestial abodes. So because of that, in chapter 3, Arjun starts this question. All right, on one hand, you are telling me to perform action, and on the other hand, you are telling me to cultivate knowledge. And that is actually confusing me or bewildering me. And he tells Krishna, I know your intent is not to confuse me, so please guide me which path to take. And that is where we are. And then Krishna goes on to explain to Arjun that since time immemorial, since time eternity, these two categories of people have always existed and will continue to exist. What are those categories? One, who have a proclivity or a tendency towards intellectual contemplation, and the other ones who are more inclined towards action. So for as long as the humankind has existed, these two tendencies have existed. And then he goes on to explain that if you think you are just going to contemplate knowledge without performing any action, nothing will happen, because you will still be besieged with all the mental afflictions. So it's only through performing actions in the University of Hard Knocks, which is this world, can you purify your mind. And how do you purify your mind? That is where the science of superior action or the science of working comes into picture. And that is what Lord Krishna, he introduced that in Shloka 2.47 in chapter 2, and he's going to further expound upon this philosophy and explain it further. So I hope you are with me so far. So Lord Krishna told Arjuna to cultivate knowledge that there is no happiness in this world. Okay, and Arjun got confused that when he's saying knowledge, basically he's asking me to refrain from action. And that is what Lord Krishna is going to clarify to Arjun as we go along. So let's get started with today's shloka. And in fact, he brought in that concept of hypocrite. He said there are two worlds, inner world and an outer world. Now, if you renounce the world externally and internally, you continue to be attached to the objects of senses, then you are a hypocrite. You are fooling yourself. Okay, you are still incurring karma, and at the same time, you might be derelicting or running away from your duties. So you might actually be incurring sin, running away from your responsibility, externally renouncing something when you are not internally not ready for it, counts for nothing. And we looked at it through that story of those two brothers, right? Tavrit and Suvrit. And today, Lord Krishna is going to explain the concept of superior action. You know, what is the science of work? We all work. In fact, we also spoke about this topic that not even for a moment anybody can be without work, because work is not the physical action alone. It is your thoughts as well. What you are thinking is also an action, and you are incurring karma about it. And God knows sankalpa. Sankalpa means the thought of every moment of our every day, of every moment for across lifetimes. That much data God holds. He knows what we thought even infinite lifetimes back for that particular moment. We might have forgotten what we thought yesterday at the same time, but God has an account of that. And accordingly, he bestows, basically dispenses that perfect justice in form of prarabdha, or the kind of bodies or lives, situations, circumstances, countries, religions that we end up getting in lifetime after lifetime, for as long as we are under the influence of Maya. All right, so let's get with today's shloka then. And this is where we are today. Okay, so I hope it resolves the confusion. We'll keep on revisiting the roadmap so that, you know, we are able to connect the dots. Why are we discussing a particular concept? Because sometimes we lose the context of it when, you know, we continue progressing further. So we will keep on revisiting it as well. So let's move now. So there are actions. Okay, let's revisit. There are three kinds of actions. Let's look at the first type of action, the action which is performed by our intellect and mind. We use our mind and intellect to perform those actions during the day. For example, okay, we'll look at it. I think the animations have gotten a little messed up. All right. For example, the surgeon, when surgeon is performing an operation, that person is simply using his mind and intellect, nothing else, right? He knows this is the theory I've understood or you know, practiced during my college days and gained experience over, and then using the intellect, the kind of operation or the surgery is performing purely mind and intellect. Okay, is that operation there? Nurse is doing the same. Even a teacher is doing the same in school. Okay. The second kind of actions are where you have intellect and mind is the common entity. You cannot perform an action without the involvement of mind and intellect, right? Because mind is the governor of our karm indriyas and gyan indriyas, right? It basically sends the signals and then they follow, and intellect is the governor of our mind. However, in this kind of an action, something else gets mixed up as well. Okay, that is the attachment part. Okay, and what are those actions? When we are with our kids, now that attachment has come in. A teacher, when she's at school, she's detached to the process. It's just a duty for her. Right? Similarly, for a nurse, it's just a duty for her when she's looking after the patients. Similarly, for a surgeon, it's just a duty. The surgeons keep on cranking operations after operations because it's purely mind and intellect. There's absolutely no attachment component to it. But this is where, when your kids come, now the attachment has seeped in. So this is the second kind of action. Now, the third kind of action is mind and intellect is there. You mix God with it. Okay, attachment is there. I mean, it's basically you have dovetailed it towards God. And that is the science of work that Lord Krishna is going to expound upon, which he already introduced in 2.47, and is going to again build on that concept today, just so that the concept gets firmly ingrained in our mind through Arjuna. So these are the three kind of actions that we typically get involved in throughout the day. It's typically type 1 and type 2. Type 3 is where Bhagavad Gita is introducing this concept. This is called Karm Yoga. When you bring God into the equation, that is when it is Karm Yoga. And that is what God is telling you, how you can perform actions in this consciousness, which are actually non-binding karma, which is actually uplifting, which is actually something which is going to take your consciousness toward divine consciousness from your current material consciousness. Now, when you are attached to the results, your consciousness is material. When you start dovetailing it towards God, it starts becoming divine. Okay? It takes you closer to the goal of your life. And attachment, obviously, we will see the flip side of. We've seen that with attachment, what happens is, we all know through our experience, we don't need to talk about too much about it, right? Two aspects of it. One is three things, in fact, multiple things, but top three I'll touch upon. When we have attachment, obviously it results in disappointment. It can result in misery. It can result in pain. That is one part of it. Second is it perpetuates or accentuates the belief that yes, there is happiness in my relatives. If good happens, then I'm happy. If bad happens, I'll be suffering. So our roots which are attached to this world keep on getting deeper when we have that attachment. And it doesn't matter whether that attachment is to 1 people or 10 people. You just need one person, and it could even be other species also. It doesn't have to be a human to repeat in this world. And this process continues. You just need one person. So this is the process where we're talking about attachment. Third part, because we have forfeited an opportunity to surrender to God. So we have forfeited an opportunity to purify our mind. So the moment that attachment, we are operating in that consciousness where there is a tinge of attachment or a desire or an attachment to the result part of it is there, it is a binding karma. Now, binding karma can again fall into two categories. Either it is positive or is it negative. If it is positive, it is still binding, right? At best, you will get celestial abodes, which we know is a temporary pit stop, or you go to hellish abode if it is a negative karma. So in either case, any action that is performed with attachment is going to result in binding karma, and it is going to result in continuing our tourism in 8.4 million along with God. Okay, so it's a free of cost tourism that we are engaging in and making God's job a little difficult. All right, so let's move on. Now, Karm Yoga is the concept that we are talking about, which is you do your occupational duties. That is a bare minimum, right? Lord Krishna introduced that to Arjuna, that this is the hygiene criteria for you to justify your existence in this world. Bare minimum, that means if you're not even going to perform your occupational duties, being part of just by virtue of the fact that you are born as a human, then you are going to really go down in this evolution process. Basically, there is absolutely no reason for us to be given this human body as a privilege, right? So that bare minimum we can do is perform our occupational duties. And he has added the yoga, the union of God. Along with it, you perform your duties, but in a consciousness that it is a service to God. You're doing it for his pleasure, and you're offering the fruits of your actions to him. That becomes Karm Yoga then. If you purely do occupational duties and assuming you do it to perfection, yes, celestial abodes are waiting for you. but then again, it is a temporary thing. It does not take you out of this cycle of birth and death. However, when you start associating it with God, your day-to-day actions, then you start acquiring divine consciousness, and then that's when you start accruing non-binding karmas, and that's where you start making fast tracking your spiritual growth. And when final day when God's grace intervenes, that's when you can absolve yourself of all your previous karmas. Okay, otherwise getting out of our past karmas, infinite bank balance that we already carry, is statistically impossible if you don't bring God into the equation, and thinking that we will continue to be good people, good parents, good son and daughters, will do a lot of charities, and one day we will find God. It's not going to happen. Okay, our scriptures are telling us very, very clearly. You have to bring God into the equation to understand who we truly are, and then start performing your duties along with mixing God in your consciousness. And that is how we keep on purifying our mind. And then finally, God's grace will intervene, and this whole journey will fructify. So let's continue on this. Now, work, we looked at it. See, when the kind of karmas we perform, okay, it's a little bit like this, the picture that you see. I found it pretty interesting, and that's essentially the game we are playing here. So one is the physical karma, and the other one is the mental karma. So anything that we do through our karmendriyas is obviously accounted for as a karma, needless to say. And even the thoughts that come to our mind, they're also karmas. So anything that we think, so if we think about puncturing somebody's tire just because somebody passed, it has already been noted, even though you might not have done that. So that is why God says that you don't, basically, if you look at it, it's a very slippery path, because mind is something which, it is a thought generating factory, and until or unless we start purifying it, it will not be able to generate productive, positive thoughts. The only way to do that is to purify it by start attaching your mind to perfecting the art of Karm Yoga, and start attaching it to God or Guru, basically the pure things, so that the quality of thoughts that are generated from our mind are actually uplifting and noble, and not very, very random. Your mind will surprise you by creating thoughts that you will say, why did that come, right? But we don't have to be harsh on ourselves. We have to let it pass, especially if it is not a productive thought and it's just a random thought. Okay, mind will generate that. You cannot do away with that. Okay, nobody can claim to say, hey, I cannot never think like that. No, our mind can surprise us by generating thoughts, because that's essentially what it does. And then those thoughts are generated because of our conscious mind, based on our experience, our learnings, our value system in this life, but also the subconscious mind, which is programmed through our multiple infinite lifetimes before. So anytime it can generate anything, unless we have done a cleansing act on it. So the key here is, in both the acts, you mix God. That is essentially what Karm Yoga is. Now, Karm Yogi is one who performs worldly duties, keeping the mind attached to God. It's a very interesting concept. I always used to think that how can you do two things at one time, right? Either you think about God or you do your job. How can you do your job and think about God, right? It is actually possible. It is actually possible. I'll give you a couple of examples. Now, what happens when you do that is, then you are performing all kind of works, but then because you're not attached to the fruits of your action and offering it to God, those karmas are non-binding, and you are actually elevating your consciousness when you do that as well. I'll give you a couple of examples how it can happen. When we drive car, we don't have to really think what's happening. It's automatically happening, right? We are singing, listening to the music, talking to people, and at the same time, everything is perfectly orchestrated. The gears are changing. We are able to do multiple things at the same time, because it's so deeply ingrained. That thing has gone into your subconscious that, okay, in this kind of a situation, this will happen. Your feet will move automatically. Your hands will move automatically. Second example is, even when, let's say, a teacher is there, right? A mother is there. Even if she's teaching or cooking or doing anything, not even for a moment would she forget that she's a mother, right? Because that consciousness is so deeply ingrained in her. Similarly, when you keep on practicing this, that, okay, God is there with me and God is watching me and I need to offer everything as a fruit to him. I don't need to think about the results, because end of the day, effort is in my hands. The results is something which is a variable. A lot of things I have to have a prasad buddhi, it comes from God. All those things, when you start keep repeating in your mind, there will hopefully come a stage, at least saints say that, that becomes part of your consciousness and it will become effortless at that point. And that is the whole process of progressing in spirituality. Let's continue. So what happens in this first kind of karma, when you do it with this consciousness, it is not binding. As you can see, there are no shackles when you do that. Otherwise, if you perform actions with attaching your mind to the results, that what, this should happen because I'm putting in this effort, this should happen, and if this does not happen, it will not be nice, then those kind of karmas are binding karmas. When you work with a desire to enjoy the fruits of your work, those are binding karmas. It's very difficult to get rid of that. There is a subtle mind which is always attached to that result. This has to happen because of lifetimes of practice. It's not easy. It's just like asking a drug addict or a chain smoker to give it up all of a sudden. It's not going to happen, but Lord Krishna is saying you have to practice. You have to practice, start practicing it, because otherwise you're simply accruing binding karma. And second part of it is, when you think you are going to enjoy, right, the fruits of your work or otherwise, it's a never-ending game. You will never feel satiated at all, because the goalpost will keep on shifting forever, right? More recently, if you look at it, we have like these people, billionaires in this world right now in corporate houses, Jeff Bezos, right? Even he's disappointed for the fact that Richard Branson is the first guy to move to space, right? The SpaceX, that mission happened. So they also have their set of disappointments, because it is a never-ending game. You will never feel satiated. You think I'm here, but only if I'm here, then I'll be happy. Only if I'm there, I'll be happy. So this kind of a thing never ends. Our scriptures are telling us loud and clear. In different scriptures, the same thing is being told, that do not go after all this stuff. The satiation that you are looking for is in God, because you are divine. And what you are trying to fill this with is worldly things, which is not going to happen. It may give you temporary relief, but it will not fix the permanent, it will not give you the permanent cure for what the affliction that you are having, or what you have been seeking for since time eternity. That is essentially what it's saying. Another example for that is like a parrot, right? Parrot is in a cage. So if you keep ornamenting the cage, polishing the cage, or decorating the cage, without feeding the parrot, will it really feel happy? No, it will not, right? If you take fish out of water and start ornamenting it, start giving it a lot of nice food and stuff like that, will it make it happy? It will not. Similarly, our soul is divine. What it is seeking is something divine. And we are trying to fill that gap through what we think it would satiate it. And through our experience, we know that it has not. And still we keep fooling ourselves saying, no, it has not, but one day I will. And our scriptures are telling us, no, you will not. Okay, that's essentially what it is saying. Unless you start imbibing that consciousness that whatever you are doing, do it as a pleasure of God. And then that the bliss that you start getting in return, you will start getting that abhas, that yes, now I'm feeling a sense of satisfaction, which previously I never did. Okay, when I was working with an agitated mind towards achieving something, and trying to enjoy the fruit of that, it might have given you temporary relief, but it will never satiate you. That's essentially what scriptures are telling us, and that's essentially the whole process of Karm Yogis, where you start bringing God into the mix and start breaking the shackles of your attachment for your own welfare, for your own what do you call that, freedom of mind, so to say. It is like the shackles that hold your mind, and the moment you break an attachment or reduce an attachment, it's liberating actually. And your experience will tell you that. You can experiment around and you'll be able to see that things that hold you, the day you break that attachment, it is very liberating, and it is a permanent liberation at that point. Let's continue. Now, the desire and choices, we also brought in that concept that, the kind of desires we make in this world and the kind of choices we end up making, they're actually dictated by our gunas, right? At any point in time. So let's take a quick example we've taken in the past as well. There's a robber. So when this person is about to run away with a booty from a bank or from a house, wherever he laid his hands on, this thought might come, right? What am I doing? I should put it back. You know, I would not like somebody to steal my hard-earned money. That thief may get that moment of realization that it would be somebody's hard-earned money that I'm trying to steal. So why should I steal? That guna might get activated, even in a robber, never know, right? However, if this person is in a rajasic mode, he'll say, you know, I'm going to help the poor with 50-50 and keep rest 50 for myself. He may have a Robin Hood movement as well if he's in that mode. And then if he's in tamasic mode, he'll say, all right, I got a lot. And then, you know, next time I'm going to plan even a big robbery. Now, God is not going to stop you from doing that. He's the energizer, right? He's simply going to log your karma because you have a free will. Simply because he's the energizer, that doesn't mean he's going to stop you from doing that. But he'll simply, all right, I've taken account. Okay, I will give you the result of your karma in due course of time. Okay, that's all it is. And then it can be ridden by free will. So basically, the point here is that unless we are fully surrendered to God, this concept we have spoken about in the past as well, that's when, and we let God be the inspirer for us, we will continue to be bound by karmas, because our actions would be revolving around or rotating in these three modes always. Either you will do actions born out of your sattva guna, or you will do action born out of your rajas guna, or you will do it out of your tamas guna, right? These three. And when you start attaching your mind to God, that's when you start transcending these gunas. For as long as you are operating in these three gunas, no matter what you do, even if you end up doing a good deed, you are still bound in this material world. Okay? So this is a concept. So this we have, let me revisit that. So when you are focused on your effort, so this is the quadrant where you operate in when you are in rajas, tamas or sattva, where your effort and doership both are there, right? Because you are thinking you are doing it. And when you are in your focus, basically result focus increases, effort focus reduces, you are in tamas, you are always hung up on the result. I should just get this. Okay, you're too much focused on the result, less on the effort part of it, then you are operating again in these three gunas. The proportion may vary. As you can see, it is darkened a little bit. That means you are more towards the tamas side now, where you are not putting so much focus on effort, but more on the result part of it. Okay, you could be operating in any of these three gunas, but more towards the ignorance part, which is tamas side. That is why it's a little darker. And then it's not a good quadrant to be in, basically. And the third one, if you look at it, it's sattva, where you are result focused, but you are still not completely away from non-doership here. Okay. And it's only when you are in Shuddha Sattva, where you are completely effort focused and you attach the result to God, you offer the results to God and you are doing it as a service of God, is when you are doing Karm Yoga. Other than that, you are operating in the remaining three quadrants, which are binding and really not liberating. And we keep playing in these three quadrants. Sattva is a good one to be in, but the next best thing. But the next best thing is also not good enough at this point, because that will also keep you in this material world only. You may enjoy a very good life as a Gandharv or as a Indra or somebody in Swarglok, but then when your punyas deplete, you again get into the tourism of 8.4 million, okay, which is not a cool thought basically, but that is how it is. All right, so then let's move on. Yes, so reminds me of Bhakti Shatak, Karm Yoga concept, which Maharaj Ji says, Man hari mein tan jagat mein Karm Yoga tehi jaan Radhe Radhe. Tan hari mein man jagat mein Yah mahan agyan radhe radhe. So it simply reiterates the philosophy which our scriptures say and which has been distilled for us in Bhagavad Gita. Bhakti Shatak, like I said, it is a gagar it is a sagar in a gagar. Okay, is beautifully explaining that when one works in the world with the body but keeps the mind attached to God, it is Karm Yoga. Simply put, Karm Yoga is you're working. Externally, it will seem like any other person. You might be doing your carpenter's job, you might be an IT professional, you may be a doctor, whatever you are doing, you may be a businessman, but your mind is attached to God. That is essentially what Lord Krishna told Arjuna as well, right? Sarve kaleshu mam anusmarancha, that every moment keep me at the back of your mind. That is what Karm Yoga is. Okay, just performing your actions or duties is not Karm Yoga. It is simply Karm. Okay, and I was said when I speak to my friends and all, they say, "What is this? This kirtan and chanting and all that stuff. We are doing Karm Yoga already." Okay, so just working, people think is Karm Yoga. That is not. Okay, they are performing Karam or Vikaram. Binding karmas, basically. That is not Karam Yoga. And Karam Yoga is a very, very elevated state. And if we can perfect that, we have done ourselves a big favor. Actually, it is a stepping stone where you have started bringing God into the mix. And when you perfect Karam Yoga, that itself is a pretty elevated stage. Now your mind is always in God, right? So God's grace can intervene anytime. And when one engages in spirituality with the body but keeps the mind attached to the world, know it to be hypocrisy. Same thing here it said as well. It is born out of ignorance and it is called hypocrisy, and we should refrain from that. So running away from duties, thinking there is misery in this world, so I should run away, is not the right way to approach that. In fact, it is said when you renounce something, it has to come from a position of strength, not from a position of weakness. You cannot say there is misery in this world and you left this world. That is not the right way. When you have this firm understanding, firm belief that there is neither misery nor happiness in this world, and then you progress towards sannyas, which is obviously a call of God. You cannot do it on your own. That will come as a call of God, either from Guru or something will happen. That's when you renounce the world. That is true renunciation. Otherwise, just running away from the world is actually downgrading yourself spiritually. For as long as you are here and you have not learned your lessons and you have not learned the art of Karm Yoga, Lord Krishna is recommending to work in accordance with your nature, in accordance with your dharma, in accordance with your varna. That is essentially what Lord Krishna is explaining Arjuna as well. So he started off with the basic message. First, understand who you are. Then he said the next session, okay, perform your duty as a warrior. Then he brought the next concept, cultivate knowledge, the science of work. And now he's going to take him to the next level. That is how we are progressing. All right. So with that, let's get into our interactive segment. The question today is, okay, before we do that, I know Amruta Maniji, you had a quick announcement to make about the SMX session. Let's quickly do that and then we'll get into our interactive segment.
Yes, Nitinji. Yeah. If I can share the screen.
Yes, you can. You can share the screen.
Yes, 1 minute. So I think you will have to stop the screen share, Nitinji.
That I will not, sorry. Okay, I stopped share.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, please.
So this is about SM exclusive, which Govindji is, he was about that. So just a small, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are able to see.
Okay, so this is the website. So anybody, I've got messages from people. So they've been asking what it is actually. So this is the thing. You can just see what it is and what they do. It is like weekly or bi-weekly. Nitinji, can you give us a little info on this?
Sure. So these sessions are SMX are Swami Mukundanand exclusive sessions. They are wonderful sessions and they are offered at a very nominal price right now. You get an opportunity to have a FaceTime with Swamiji, ask him questions, and all the previous recordings are available. It's a very professionally managed website. In fact, I refer to some of the question and answer sessions from these sessions for my Bhagavad Gita session as well. Beautiful questions, from real life people ask, and Swamiji typically picks up a topic or just addresses those questions. So you get a chance, you can submit your questions in advance, and a lot of people have a lot of questions, and it's like a real life problems that they come, and Swamiji gives them very, very practical nuggets around those questions. So do take a look at this. You can paste the link, Amutavaniji, and this is a great opportunity to get some face-to-face time with him and get your questions clarified, and also learn from others' questions and experiences that come along, as part of the different scenarios each one of us are in, and it's a pretty enriching, diverse experience that we get, listening into these sessions. So do take a look at that.
Yes, thank you, Nitinji.
You can paste the link so that everybody can refer to that.
Yes, I will paste the link, and if anyone would like to, please in the attendance tracker you can post whatever way if you want to sign in.
Yes, please. All right, so let me get to the interactive segment then.
I will post the link.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Nitinji, you can see.
Awesome. Okay. So these are the actions that we typically perform in the world, right? Now the question today is, now Lord Krishna is saying that a person in household life who practices Karm Yoga is superior to a false renunciant who continues to dwell on the objects of senses in the mind. Let's discuss this concept. So this is a very important concept. From a learning standpoint, we cannot make out, looking at a person, whether it is a saint or a regular person, because all we can see is the exterior part of that person, right? We really don't know what is going on inside that person. And that can actually, our mind can play tricks. That's where it says we should not fall into the trap of trying to understand somebody, especially saints, through their actions. Okay, your mind will mislead you. And we all have seen Lord Ram, we all have seen Lord Krishna. We've had infinite lifetimes, but we could not make it out. And that is because unless our mind is at a certain level, from a purity standpoint, we cannot make it out. It's just like an iron will feel attraction towards a magnet to the extent it has the ferrous property or the properties of the iron. So if you're not feeling attracted towards God or a saintly person, that means there's still a little bit more work that needs to be done. So now the other part of it is, let's discuss this concept. If somebody is in a household life and practicing Karm Yoga, is that superior from a person who might be dwelling on senses while actually living a life of a monk? So let's get into that discussion. What are some of the learnings around this concept for us from our practical day-to-day standpoint, or some of the stereotypes that we can challenge around that? Anybody wants to take a first shot at it? Do we have anybody raised hand? Nobody. Okay, I can see.
Yes, we have Pragya ji, Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Pragya ji, for bailing me out. I can see.
What a beautiful concept. Really that we are doing our karma every day in our material world, and yet such a revealing knowledge where we need to keep our mind while doing our work in the world. And yeah, it reminds me of Moor Doha from Bhakti Shatak. I'll just say that. Jo Hari Seva Hetu Ho Somi Karma Bakhan Radhe Radhe Hari Nimit Jo Paap Kar So Punne Kahaye Radhe Radhe. And it reminds me of the timeless example of the student of Bhagavad Gita, Arjun. like how Krishna guided him where he has to keep his mind while fighting the great epic war. And it also reminds me of how Hanuman burned the whole of Lanka with Lord Ram in his mind. And उनका कोई भी कर्म नोट ही नहीं होता है. What they are doing in the world was just not noted. They were absorbed of all these karma because they had God in their mind, and everything they did was mimic. Maybe Nathan can supplement a word for it. Mimic to God.
Yep.
And Maharaji also cites the example of an army man fighting on the war front or the border, or even a police officer for that matter. When they kill, many times they are awarded. They are not charged with murder because they are just obeying their commander. They are doing their duty. So likewise, in the world, if we realize our true self and who we belong to, as Nitin was saying in the beginning of the session, we keep forgetting our true self. So if we keep reminding that everything we do, we belong to God, and everything we do in the world should
Okay, yeah. Okay. Chimes came out. Yes, great point, Pragyaji. Beautiful examples of Hanumanji and Arjun. In fact, what happened? Arjun was about to fight a war. What does he do after listening to Bhagavad Gita? He still fights the war. What changes between before listening to the message and after listening to the message? The fact that now he was doing it as a service to God, aligning to his will, as opposed to doing it for his own gratification or for any of his personal ambition out of that. So that changes the entire dynamics around it, right? Great point. A beautiful point, Pragyati. Like always, I can see a few more hands. Please go ahead.
Samji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. As you said recently, this Karm Yoga, of course, is superior because the Karm Yogi householder has a Karm Yoga. So he takes care of his family, his children, rearing the children, doing the job and earning the money at the same time, having that God in his mind. So that the real Karm Yoga, as compared to the renunciates who just having the yellow clothes, bagme kapde pehniye. Like example I gave it last time, I think in some different context. Guru and disciple were going in a forest and all those things, and Guru found something shiny thing, happened to be a diamond or something. He quickly picked it up and hid in his pocket. And the Chilla figured out that something. Guru is getting greedy. It's not, I have to take care of that one. I should relieve my Guru out of this thing. So one time that they were sleeping, the Chilla, he took out that diamond and thrown away somewhere. And Guru woke up and explained to him what happened. So he was upset, of course, and then Sheila tried to explain to him that you were getting distracted because of the greed and all those things, getting attached to that thing. And that's why the God wasn't in the picture. So Karm Yoga, it wasn't the Karm Yoga, it was a kind of hypocrite thing, situation.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell. And before I go further, I have another question, different kind of, like we were talking about earlier, you said mind still can be in God, but isn't it sometimes they say mind can do only one thing at a time? If a surgeon is doing intellect and mind using it there, at the same time the mind, you said, should be in God. Isn't the mind is going in two different directions? And many times, many sannyasi, many swamis, they simply say the mind can do only one thing. It may be a transitional thing or like fading thing for the moment, but afterwards it has to stick to one place. If the person happened to be attached to the one place, like say God, then he won't be doing any surgery properly. Either way, vice versa. Just a thought, clarification when you find the time. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very natural question that comes. Yeah, it's a difficult concept, but if you keep thinking deeply about it, I think it is doable in the sense that not even for a moment, like I said, right? A mother forgets she's a mother. She doesn't have to force her mind to say, hey, by the way, I'm mother, while she's teaching, right, to other kids. Or not for a moment, we forget who we are. right? That consciousness is so deeply ingrained in us that it's effortless at that point. So it's not like, hey, I'm doing surgery, but I have to think about God. Now I'm doing surgery. It's always there at the back of your mind. I'll give you one more example. Let's say your kid is not fine. Okay, you go to a doctor. So when you're going to a doctor, you are able to operate very effectively. What are the instructions doctor is giving? What is the medicine name that doctor has written? Even though their handwriting, we all know how doctors' handwritings are. Okay, no offense meant. And then we go to the medical shop, get the medicine, and we give it to our son or daughter, and follow the instructions very clearly. Okay, how many drops and how many times a day. When we are doing all that with our mind and intellect, have we forgotten even for a minute that who are we doing it for? No, we have not. We have operated very, very effectively because we are doing a bhakti of our relative, our son, daughter, whoever it is at that point, and our focus is very clear. Similarly, when we have at the back of our mind, God, who are we serving it for? It doesn't need a special attention. It's a consciousness that gets ingrained in you, and you can actually operate, do things with that thing at the back of your mind. It is very much doable. We do it all the times, even in our day-to-day lives. So I think if we think deeply, this concept will click. Even I struggled with it a little bit, at least to begin with. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Take a few more questions. Tomorrow we're going to have an amazing quiz. I want to tell you we're going to have a little bit of a breathing and getting into some contemplation, meditation as well. So it's a bit of a surprise for me as well for tomorrow's session. We have a new participant. She's graciously accepted to do that. So I'm looking forward to it and would strongly encourage you to come play as well. We are going to do the recap of Divine Mother session that we did. And after that, we are going to have a little bit of pranayam and contemplation, meditation, some mix of that. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. I'm letting it be a surprise. So definitely. Pardon?
Is there any quiz tomorrow or no quiz?
No, there's going to be quiz, and after the quiz, we're going to get to spend time on that live meditation we will do. And maybe a little bit more as well. So I don't know exact, but all right, let's hear. We still have a few more minutes, so we can hear from other participants as well. And by the way, I wanted to thank everyone who have been able to send the testimonials. Gives me a reason to connect with you, and it will help in spreading the word out and putting it on our portal as well. And I know a lot of you are actually going to send it out, so that means a lot to me. So thank you for sending out, or thank you for planning to send it out, and I really appreciate that. Yes, let's continue our conversation.
Sunitji, Radhe Radhe.
Yes, Radhe 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 Radhe. Yes, Nitinji, when you are giving the example of this car, how easily we can drive a car, isn't it? We are singing, listening music, we are talking to people, how easy it is for us. I remember when I was learning a car, just that strike immediately to me. When I was learning a car, when my coach took me on the highway, I was telling him that the truck coming in front of me will crush me, it's going to crush me. I was so scared on the first day. Then with the right understanding, what he said to me, that that truck that is coming is going in its own lane. You are on left side and that is in the other lane. So you don't have to worry about that truck. So right understanding will always keep
Come
us
on
on the
in.
track.
We want to show you how to style your house with our collection of living spaces. Our designs easily.
Sorry about that. I think Nitinji, you're on mute. If you are able to, yeah. Yes.
Are you
Yes.
able to now? Okay.
Yes.
Some technical glitch happened. Sorry about that, Sunitji. Yes, I couldn't let you conclude. Yes, please go ahead. I think you can finish your thought. Did I miss?
Yeah, it was just that when we start our spiritual journey, difficulties are there. But
Yes.
if we are in our lane, we are not distracting ourselves, focused, and definitely we will reach there and we will drive our car easily. Car of spirituality.
Very true. Very, very true. Beautiful.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you so much, Sunitji. Radhe Radhe. Let's hear a couple of other participants as well.
Padmaji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. So obviously,
The answer to the question that you posted, Nitinji, is of course the Karma Yogis. But I was contemplating on this. Many times this topic came, on your sessions and Ajayjit's session, and it was a very challenging thing for me to actually grasp my mind over it. But then over a past 1 year, this is what I took away, which is the basic fundamental rule. What they're saying in Karma Yogis: do your duty as you are in the materialistic world, but keep your mind on the God. Always keep your mind attached to the God. And then I contemplated, why is that I'm struggling? And then my answer was because that expectation that I had, that mostly it was being that mother that I struggled with is, okay, if I get through this challenge with my child, I'll be okay, I'll be happy, he'll be happy. And then the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, whether it's therapy or something. And then when it clicked that to me, that I'm expecting out of this behavior or the action that I'm doing, I stopped refraining myself to go in that thought process and say, you know what, this is exactly, I'm going to do this. But I'm not going to say in my mind that, okay, I will be happy after this particular thing with my son. I would just say, do it. The thought comes, you just do it. But keep the mind on the God and say, God, I want to do this with my kid. Whatever the result is, that is my fate. Give me whatever you can offer, but I'm going to put my best effort and not think about what the result will be. But give me the strength to keep the mind on you. And I think that kind of helped me in the past 1 year to say, what is the true definition of karma yoga, which is do what you need to do, but don't expect anything from what comes out of it, whether it's good, bad, 50%, 20%, 0%, 100%, or maybe 200%. So that really helped me to ingrain what the definition of karma yoga means. Thank you.
Thank you, Padmaji. You always talk from the depth of your realizations, which really hits the point. Beautiful example. Yeah, I think for simple, I mean, one of the things I saw somewhere which helps me remember this concept always is let go and let God. So you let go of it and let God take over, because there's only so much you can do. And that is again born out of humility, because we just don't have control over anything, right from our birth all the way up to when we exit this world, right? We didn't choose our parents, we didn't choose the family, we didn't choose our country, we didn't choose our religion, we don't choose. There's so many things which like, not everything, in fact, all we can do is our efforts as a part of our growing up, but life keeps throwing things at you, and we just have to take it on and focus on our efforts and let God take over, So that is the whole idea about this part, where we continue to imbibe that humility and the understanding that there's very little there's nothing actually we can control. And the more we focus on our efforts and have more acceptance, the better off we are, because it will bring peace to ourselves only. Thank you so much, Padmaji, for that. Let's maybe take one more participant and then we can call it off. I know we are a little over. And you can fill in the attendance tracker in the meantime, all of you.
Just a quick comment from Nitiji. She says, we just have to realize the things that worldly things should be done externally. All the bodily actions can be done having a thought in mind that in every lifetime people changes. External environment changes, but the thing which is certain is the soul, and the eternal relative of our soul is God. So if accept this fact, one can perform karma yoga in a proper manner, internally attached to God and externally doing his or her work. Thank you.
Yeah, you summed it up really well, Nadi. Great thoughts, great reflections, beautiful points. All right, let's hear from
Chandruji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Amritavani, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good. Nitinji, Radhe Radhe.
Chandruji.
I have 3 points to congratulate you today. First of all, the subject was very dry, but you made it so very interesting with all your create and designs and everything. Made it perfectly clear to understand. Your Bhakti Shatak verse 84 that you chose is my favorite too. And I have actually written it down in my journal. I copied it, and it explains the same example that you are giving on your screen, that the mother is attached to the child and her mind is in God and her duty towards the child, which is Karm Yoga.
Yes.
So that is Man Hari Me, Tan Jagat Me, Karma Yoga, Teha Jan Radhe Radhe, Tan Hari Me, Man Jagat Me. That's the fake saint who is wearing the ochre robes and a goat beard and is not true to his spiritual world. So his man is not in the hurry and it's always in the Jagat. So Karma Yoga, Teha Jan Radhe Radhe. How so coincidentally that we work in accordance with our nature, and we don't, I mean, we should not, the fruit of actions should be with God for non-binding karmas. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Thank you so much, Chandruji. Yes, beautifully summarized. I think you just summed up what all we discussed today. So thank you so much for that. Great inputs.
Thank you.
All right. Are we good then, Amrutamani ji? I think everybody has been kind today to you. All right. Maybe not as yet.
Sorry, I was on mute.
No worries. We can maybe take a quick thing, Sunitji, if you wanted to say that. And then we'll wrap it up. Last one, maybe.
Oh, do we have? I don't see anyone hand raised.
Okay. I think if you're good, then we can do closing prayers.
Just a quick announcement, like for tomorrow's announcement. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we will be having morning gems with Swamiji, Tuesday 7:30 a.m. and 8 p.m. Tulsi Ramayana and 9 p.m. our daily wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. So these are the sessions which we'll be having. I've posted the attendance tracker as well as the link for Swamiji's exclusive. So please take a moment to see that. Thank you, Nitinji. Thank you so much for the wonderful session as always. Thank you, everyone. Radhe,
Thank you.
Radhe.
I need to do the closing.
Radhe Radhe.
Yes, please, for the closing prayers.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukh Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, everybody. Please come over for the weekly recap. We're going to have a very exciting quiz followed by something new we are going to experiment with tomorrow. So please do come tomorrow. Wonderful day and a great rest of your evening. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe
Radhe Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
I will be closing the bridge. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have taken the link.